Don't take life too seriously. Soon we'll all be in the grave. Oh, fuck, shit!
We are in very serious danger of destroying the biosphere, that is to say, the whole envelope of living creatures which covers this planet, through pollution, overpopulation, nuclear fallout, poisoning of our food, and very lack of food.
Tragedy.
And we met to discuss the problem of organizing this conference, and here were all these brilliant people. And it came over us that we really didn't know what we ought to say. I mean, you can scream and create a state of panic, but that won't do any good. And when it came down to it, we didn't know what we ought to say because we really don't know what to do. Some things that we might do, for example, to increase the food supply with high-yield crops, may be ecological mistakes. And so the consensus of almost everybody at the meeting was that in some way or other, the human race has to learn how to leave the world alone and let what is called the natural homeostasis, that is the self-balancing process of nature, take care of the mess.
To sum it all up, Jackson.
And no wonder we feel cut off from everything, alienated, frightened of life and death. So what has to happen is we have to come back to a sane view of our own life, which is the way we really are, an organism functioning in terms of the whole environment, with the whole environment, instead of this funny little separate personality. But how are we going to do that? People say, oh, you can't change human nature overnight. You're asking us to give up the ego. And that's the most difficult of all things to do. Actually, it isn't. Because the ego doesn't exist. But of course, if you try to give up your ego with your ego, then it'll take you to the end of time.
Shite.
Well, I'm unhappy about the world being concreted over and all the forests chopped down and the air polluted, and the fact that the planet is in the control of mad people.
Crazy.
You know, people who are crazy, people who are greedy, all these people who are selling the rainforest and, you know, any forests, just selling it because they make some money without, you know, I'm very unhappy about that, but I have a long-term view, which is all things must pass. I mean, before it used to be maybe they're going to blow us up with H-bombs.
Ouch.
But even that, I thought, it don't really matter. They can't destroy what's within ourselves.
Wunderbar.
Krishna said, there's no time when we didn't exist, and there'll be no time when we cease to exist. The only thing that changes is the body.
Crazy.
So even if they blew us up with H-bombs, our soul will stay in our other astral body, and the only thing that won't be here is physical.
Great.
So, you know, I'm sad about it, the world, but I look at it from within and without.
Formidable. Wonderful.
Science can never find the answer to consciousness until or unless the scientist becomes introspective, directs attention away from there, redirects attention back to the source within himself. In other words, the scientist has to become a meditator or a mystic.
And there's a natural mystic blowing through the ear.
And then, of course, whether the mystic would still want to be a scientist, I don't know. But
I actually think the mystic can be a scientist. I think we have to, again, draw a distinction between science as it's practiced now and the belief systems of science, which are, it's a very materialistic belief system. And it excludes awareing or consciousness, and it deliberately has done so because you can't measure it, you can't put a ruler up against it, and it hasn't seemed important. I mean, science's explanation of how the universe works seems to work perfectly well without ever getting into this funny thing called subjectivity or knowing. Like, we don't need bother about that.
Yowza. Yowza.
Infinite value and meaningfulness of naked existence, of the given, unconceptualized event. In the final stage of egolessness, there is an obscure knowledge that all is in all, that all is actually each.
Wonderful.
Huxley writes a book about the experience in 1954. It is titled The Doors of Perception, after the observation by poet William Blake that if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything will appear to man as it is, infinite.
Wunderbar!
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, yeah.
And that meta-paradigm, the current meta-paradigm, says the real world is the material world.
Right.
This is the real stuff. Space, time, and matter are primary. But there's an anomaly in this worldview, and that is consciousness itself. And it's a real anomaly because it cannot be doubted. We can't doubt the fact we're conscious.
But it doesn't matter because...
And it cannot be explained.
It's just a ride.
The fundamental assumption that is not questioned in the current meta-paradigm is that matter is insentient. We assume that matter is totally unconscious, and that's where the problem arises. How does consciousness come out of something that is totally, absolutely unconscious?
Groundbreaking.
Consciousness is there all the way through. So that I believe what's happened as life has evolved, it isn't that life reached a certain stage, a nervous system or whatever it was, and then something magic happened. At that stage, something, it really is magic in modern science, something magic happened, and out of inert matter, suddenly mind appeared out of nowhere. I think consciousness, in essence, subjectivity, like the interior world, is always there. And what has happened as the complexity of the physical world has evolved, so the images, the forms that appear in consciousness have also grown richer and more complex.
Nice.
This is the first way consciousness is primary. Consciousness is in everything. And the second bit is the opposite is also true. Everything is in consciousness.
Really great.
Will someone try? Open up your eyes.
You must be blind if you can't see the gaping hole called reality. Wanna do it again? I'm gonna do it again. Wanna do it again? Come on, I'm gonna do it again.
If you look at it from light's frame of reference, and I think the only real way to look at light is from light's own point of view, not from our material point of view, it doesn't need to be a wave or a particle because it doesn't go anywhere.
If you make sure you're connected, the writing's on the wall. But if your mind's neglected, stumble you might fall. Stumble you might fall. Stumble you might fall.
And we think in terms of locality. And what we're now discovering is, what physics is finding out, is the actual world out there is a non-local world. It's very, very, very weird, as Fred was pointing out, very, very weird. It's only weird when we insist on thinking that the way we experience it is the way it is. And in between the two, we have light.
Nice.
Light isn't part of the physical world, it seems. It isn't part of the world of space-time matter. It seems to be the first manifestation of the absolute, whether in physical, in the external world or within our minds, is light.
As if denying that a situation exists is going to change the world. It's really not. It's going to be happening whether you acknowledge it or not, and you're definitely not doing anything good by pretending that it doesn't exist. It's not going to go away. Refusing to look at vital information just because it makes you uncomfortable, willfully choosing to stay in a state of ignorance. That's not positivity. You know, that's avoidance. That's selfishness. You know, that's denial. That's ignorance. So please tell me, how on earth are you going to save the planet while it's burning down around you and you refuse to even be told about the fact that it's burning, let alone, you know, have the will to even bother to help? It's a useless state to exist in.
I did not try hard enough.
Most people don't know this, but we've lost 25 to 40% of the world's corals.
Ouch.
And if you wonder if that'll make a difference or not, you should ask yourself, do you like to breathe?
Smoking.
Land plants only produce about 1/3 the oxygen we breathe. The rest comes from the ocean. I'm Dr. Dave Vaughn, and I'm the program manager for coral restoration at the Moat Tropical Research Center in the Florida Keys. I actually grow coral for planting back out on the reef. It's been coined as my eureka moment, or eureka mistake, where I broke a coral into tiny pieces, and I thought it was going to die and be very stressed. And instead, it grew like the dickens.
Really great.
Each of these, in just a few months, grow to the size that would have taken a few years. I'm not going to retire until I hit 1 million corals planted back on the reef.
Admirable.
With the right conditions, we can do it in the next 3 to 5 years. People think that we've ruined this planet by technology, but with technology, we can bring it back.
This is just a ride.
You're right. There's nothing more lovely. There's nothing more profound than the certainty that all of this will end. That all of this will end. So open your arms to me, open your arms to me. This will be the one moment that matters, and this will be the one thing we remember, and this will be the reason to ignite it, and this will be the one moment that matters at all. So while the mud reclaims our footprints, while our bones keep looking back, the overgrowth is swallowing the path. Therefore the grace of God go away. Therefore the grace of God go away. Therefore the grace of time and chance and entropy's cruel hands. So open your arms to me, open your arms to me. This will be the one moment that matters, and this will be the one thing we remember, and this will be the reason to ignite it, and this will be the one moment that matters at all. So won't you stay here with me and feel it till we blister our hands? So won't you stay here with me?
This moment's having a multiple orgasm. It's like as if all of time has unfolded before us, so we could stand here and look out and scream, "Fuck yeah!" Woo!
You know how everyone's always saying, seize the moment? I don't know, I'm kind of thinking it's the other way around. You know, like, the moment seizes us.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's constant. The moments, it's just... It's like it's always right now, you know?
Yeah.
Stay here forever looking in your eyes. 24/7, baby, 365. I'll take your hand and I'll hold real tight. I'll tell you life's just to blame, so don't think twice. Let's catch the moment in a flash of light. Whoa, 24/7, baby, 365. If we're past and let's feel it now. We could all be blown to pieces because time's a ticking bomb. We could all be dead tomorrow, but our love will carry on. When you know your days are numbered and you're looking in my eyes, it's not the end, 'cause the energy never dies.
En zo zal dan morgen het leven verdwijnen, verslagen door staal en gewapend beton.
De maan zal dan koud op je nachtmerrie schijnen, geen mens die nog weet hoe het einde begon. Laat ons een bloem en wat gras dat nog groen is, laat ons een boom en het zicht op de zee.
Vergeet voor een keer hoeveel geld een miljoen is,
de wereld die moet nog een eeuwigheid mee. De wereld die moet nog een eeuwigheid mee, 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 een eeuwigheid mee.
Because it just gets in the system and they become dependent on it. I don't know. It's sad, you know, it's really sad because they're all looking for some deep love or something like that, and they miss it, you know. It's much better to try and not take any drugs, you know. If you can get straight, really straight, then in a way it's much higher.
down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream.
Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream.
Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream.
Row, row, row your boat
Row,
gently down the
row,
stream.
row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Life is but a dream.
This is just a ride. The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are. And the ride goes up and down and round and round. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride.
Great. Really great.
Good evening. Tonight on Is There, we examine the question, is there a life after death? And here to discuss it are three dead people. Gentlemen, is there a life after death or not? Sir Brian.
Do you think you'll die soon?
Yes. So my mother lived to 101.
The society now is so insane, so trivial and stupid, and the values are so just crap, that nothing of any importance seems to get paid attention to. And yet, you know, I read someone the other day, he said there's only one question that really matters, and that is there an afterlife? And I thought, yeah, that's what I think. That's the question that interests me. What do you hear about that on television?